Hey, how you doing? My name's Ryan, and today I'm designing and printing custom LEGO minifigures from Deadpool and Wolverine. This is a video that a lot of you guys requested, so I'll be sure to put in maximum effort for my designs. Now, here's the problem. LEGO just made an amazing Wolverine figure with the Marvel CMF Series 2, and the original Deadpool minifigure is just so good and so classic. I'm not sure how I'll be able to actually top them.
Whoa! Pump the scaredy cat brakes there, Ryan. Come on now, get your head in the game. Just because someone else has figurines out there doesn't mean you can't make them too. Good examples of that: Annie, the remakes of Ghostbusters, unfortunately Star Wars. Another example of beating something to death for the sake of money: Deadpool. So, I mean, come on, you've got this. Deadpool is very popular IP right now. So is Wolverine because of yours truly. All the other figurines are gonna sell out, and you, my friend, are gonna be a hero. You can join the X-Force while you're at it, too. So gosh dang it, go to your room and make me some LEGO figurines. Make my butt look big. Maximum effort.
Okay, I think Deadpool is right. Perhaps I can make custom Deadpool and Wolverine minifigures worthy of adding to my collection. But first, I'll take on some of the newer faces found in the movie before tackling the familiar ones. Up first is the TVA guards, and while some fantastic customs already exist, most of their designs come from the Loki series. The TVA found in Deadpool and Wolverine look a bit different, a bit more menacing, and that's the design that I'll use for my custom torso. This design was deceptively difficult to get right. The number of elements is rather small, just the top chest plate, 3 near identical stomach plates, and some belts. And within a few minutes, I had the top chest plate already done, this large slab of dark gray, with some detail lines and this orange orb added. Then I'll draft up the shadow lines to try to make this flat shape feel a bit more three-dimensional. Throw in the TVA logo for my custom Loki video, and this design is kind of already taking shape. Time to move down to the stomach plates, which I'll only draw half of one, copy, paste, and flip for a nice symmetrical geometric armor piece. 3 of those, and tweak each one to taper in smaller and smaller, and it looks rather nice. But zooming out and looking over this guard torso, it's incredibly dull, so let's add some shadows and highlights. I'll draw dark, semi-transparent rectangles on the sides of the lower plates to give the illusion they curve outward. And this highlight on the top of the center section only emphasizes this illusion even more. Next, I'm mocking up 3 angled dark gray shapes in the bottom corners of the torso, which you can see on some of the guards in my reference photo. With that, it's time to move on to the belts. 2 on the top with buckles, 1 on each side of the armor plate, and 1 on the bottom with an orange buckle. Okay, all the elements are present, but it's still not looking right. So let's tweak the proportions of the top plate details to make it feel a little bit less empty up there. I'll then enlarge the shadows and highlights all around and even add some on the sides of the top. Much better, I think, but I still have one trick up my sleeve. I'm going to add a subtle, semi-transparent layer of noise over all of the armor plates to give them a nice shine and a very, very subtle texture without overwhelming the design. This torso took a lot of time, but I think the effort paid off. I'm quite happy with this torso design, but what about the rest of the figure? I'll pull the arms and legs from Star Wars' Fennec Shand because I really like the way the orange pops match the torso. As for the head, that was a bit of a challenge, as I didn't really like the way any helmet looked. But if you look closely at the reference photo, there's actually 2 different styles for the TVA. There's with and without a face shield. And I can use the CMF Evil Mech Figures helmet to match the face mask look with the translucent orange head underneath to fill out the goggles. But, like always, even though the mock-up might look fantastic, I'll have to wait and see what the final printed piece looks like before I decide if my design was good or bad. Speaking of bad, how about the film's supposed villain, Cassandra Nova? This was a character that, for the very first time, I almost worked backwards on. I'd picked out all the pieces I wanted to use first before designing the torso. I'll explain why in a little bit, but for the parts, I'm using this female snowtrooper's head, General Dodoma's legs from Star Wars, and this custom coattail piece from capesforminifigs.com. The reason I picked the parts first is because for the first time ever, I'm going to try and match the pattern on my custom torso to the pre-existing leg design. So these trench coat tails from General Dodoma's need to line up with my artwork. I'll start by blocking out one side of Cassandra's lapel, tweaking it until I'm happy, then copying, pasting, and flipping the design. Sometimes I'll do this process multiple times as I need to keep checking how the art looks as a whole, not just as half. Once the lapel is locked down, I'll lay in a slab of white to represent Cassandra's shirt, which itself needs a neckline with visible skin, and its own lapel, which I'll tackle later. Instead, I'll begin adding shadows and details to the trench coat in dark tan, and shadows for the shirt in light gray. I'll copy the lapel shape from earlier and make it dark tan for the perfect shadow element. Then I'll move back to the shirt and add the straps to the neckline in light tan and shadows in dark yellow. Next, I'm mimicking the pocket shapes from the Dodoma legs, inverting them and lining them up to make the whole design feel cohesive from top to bottom. I'll also tweak the jacket's lapel to make sure it lines up with the legs too. Finally, I'll go back to the shirt and add its own collar, which are these rounded triangles with a dark tan shadow underneath. But okay, enough newcomers, how about a familiar face? How about an old character? I mean old, X-Men 1 old. I'm talking Sabretooth. And again, like Cassandra Nova, I'm flipping the order of events to pick his legs, face, and hair first before designing the torso. Sabretooth will use the head from Radagast from Middle-earth, the hair from a Friends character called Nova, and thankfully most hairs on mini dolls also fit on minifigures. The legs will come from Fantastic Beasts' Tina Goldstein, and this gray cape piece from capesforminifigs.com. And because this is another design that has a predetermined choice of legs, I'll do my best to align my torso art with the leg printing. First, I'm blocking out half of the jacket and fur collar in light gray and dark tan respectively. Then I'll meticulously bend and distort the curved collar shape to make it look more like ragged fur. This takes a long time, but not as long as adding small fur lines to the collar. Even though all the curved lines are near identical, the orientation and placement have to look right. Not too cramped together, not too spaced out. And after I grow tired of dark tan, I'm working on the rest of the jacket details with curved pockets and accent lines to make it feel old and disheveled. Let's also draw in some shadows and this stitching detail a bit higher up. With that, I think it's time to copy, paste, and flip. However, I want the two halves of the jacket to have some different details, different damage. So I'll remove the button from the left side as well as add this tattered hole with an inner shadow in place of the stitching mark. Next thing to draw are some belt straps, 2 in gray that run up the jacket's lapel on the outside, and 3 buckles in brown that are peering through the undershirt. Just a few more detail straps across the upper chest, the neckline, and some extra shadows to separate the layers of the jacket, and Sabretooth's torso is done. I love the way this torso design turned out, but I'm really worried about that fur. I hope it reads well when it's shrunk down to minifigure size. And speaking of worry, it's time to tackle the 2 main characters, Deadpool and Wolverine. I'm worried because this is really the first time I'm taking on a main character in their hero outfit. Yeah, I've designed some pretty complicated villains before, like Kang, and yeah, I've made heroes before like Spider-Man in his homemade suit, but this is the first time I'm taking on the main character in their main outfit, so I want to get this right. I'll start off first with Deadpool. First, I'm blocking out one half of this black geometric shape on Deadpool's side, as well as the stripe down the front. I know I'll go back later and add all the shading and highlights to make some of the layering pop, but for now it's flat black, kind of like the original Deadpool figure. After adding several light gray rectangles to the protrusions on the side, I take a closer look at the reference and realize they should be gold. That's great, as I think gold will pop more on the red torso. Next, I'll try to make some of the black side section a touch lighter with a semi-translucent dark gray block and some accent highlights. I know this is just a preliminary pass and I guarantee I'll be redrawing this section over and over again. But for now, I'll lay in half of the muscle pattern for Deadpool's pecs and abs. Okay, it didn't take long for me to try again on that side design. This time, I'm trying some lighter gray lines between each block section. And before I have the urge to try a third time, I'm going to copy, paste, and flip the side pattern and muscles to see the base suit design in full for the first time. The muscles suddenly don't look right, but that's fine. I can use the pattern for my custom Bishop torso and change the line work to dark red and brown. Much better. And now it's time to tackle the belt. Starting with the base shapes, first in reddish brown, I'll go back and add all the shadow lines in dark brown, accents in gold, and inner shadows in black. Then, once again, copy, paste, flip, and tweak until the alignment is correct. For the Deadpool logo belt buckle, it's really just a few simple shapes, with the eyes really angular compared to the original Deadpool minifigure. Last element to add is the crossbody strap, which is comprised of a few curved rectangles, a gold buckle underneath that belt, and some dark gray accent lines on the shoulder pad to make them pop. With the torso design done, how about the rest of the figure? I think I'll use the head and legs from the original Deadpool minifigure, but the arms from the Pro Surfer CMF minifigure. And the render looks really nice. I'm quite happy with this Deadpool, but again, it all comes down to the printing. How will this look in real life? But there's still one more character left, and that's Wolverine. And while we've had some fantastic Wolverine figures, it's up to me to make one that is film accurate. Now, both the CMF figure and movie costume are pretty simple, allowing the yellow base color to pop a lot more than usual, so I'll try my best to not overcomplicate my torso design. I'll begin by drawing the black stripe down the side, the line accent immediately next to it, and the circle patterns that fit in between those two elements. Next thing to add are these claw mark shapes in yellow on the bottom half of the black shapes. Moving up to the collar, which consists of this neck pad, this swooping neckline, and these smaller swoops just above that in mustard yellow. Then it's already time to copy, paste, and flip, only to realize that some of my spacing was way off, so I have to redraw some of the accent lines on the chest. Thankfully, that only takes a minute or two, so I can move on to the muscles. Again, I'll pull from fellow X-Man Bishop, but this time I'll recolor the lines to a light brown / dark orange like the CMF figure. Moving down to the belt, I'll start by kind of separating my top half design with a bold line and shadow, add these angular side pieces in black, these 4 rivet-like things again, and then this X-like pattern around the belt buckle. Finally, after creating an on-brand frame, I'll place in the black and red X-Men belt buckle as well as a dark red shadow to make it pop that much more. For the remainder of shadow work on the torso, I'm drawing out these blocky shapes in the center in a semi-translucent dark yellow. I think this will add some dimension to the costume without overcomplicating it with texture. And after tweaking those shapes and adding in a small highlight and shadow to the muscles, Wolverine is ready to roll. I think I'll use the legs from the original Wolverine figure, but the arms and hair will come from the CMF Wolverine, as that just looks fantastic. But now with the designs done, I have one more very important step left before ordering the custom torsos, and that is to remove the base color of each torso design to make sure I'm not printing yellow on yellow or tan on tan, and I have 0 chance of color mismatch in doing so. Then I upload all my artwork to minifigs.me and wait for my custom torsos to arrive in the mail. The custom minifigure torsos and extra parts have arrived in the mail, so let's make some chimichangas and see what these final figures look like. Now, in the past couple of design videos, I feel like I haven't been as harsh, as critical of my artwork as I need to be in order to evolve as a minifigure designer. So for the first time in a while, I brought on professional artist, Marvel fan, and close personal friend Coating to critique my designs and find out how I can improve them. Up first is Cassandra Nova, and this one I'm relatively proud of. I think the torso feels rather cohesive with LEGO's design aesthetic, and it flows pretty nicely into the legs. Now I will say the added skirt piece does kind of break up the design between the torso and legs, so all that work I did to have the pockets line up does kind of lessen the effect when it's split up by a skirt piece. But let's see what Coating thinks.
First of all, what a treat to get a peek at your minifigure work again. Okay, I'll be honest, I was not familiar with this character before, so I had to do a little research. That being said, comparing this to the comic book iterations and the quick still from the previews, this one is pretty spot on overall. A couple of nitpicky suggestions. Cassandra's white shirt and lapels have some noise in the color fills when the Illustrator files did not have it. I'm guessing that using flat colors would be closer to official LEGO minifigure designs. I also feel that the V-neck area could be larger to showcase the crisscross straps better. The little gray triangles in the shirt could be removed to simplify the design more. Would it be possible to give this character a separate coat piece?
Okay, solid feedback. I think the neckline could definitely be a little bit bigger to allow the white accent straps to be bigger as well. And yeah, if I'm being honest, I don't think the skirt piece as a whole reads as trench coat as I originally intended it to. I think that honestly the design just does the job for me. But if I'm going to go the extra mile here, I did pick up an extra piece from capesforminifigs.com. It's a piece that LEGO has never made before, and that's an actual trench coat. But if I'm being honest, I think the design of Cassandra Nova works better without the added cloth pieces, at least these two. If LEGO were to make an official trench coat piece, that would obviously be the best option, but if I'm picking between skirt piece and no skirt piece, I think I might go no skirt piece here. The design by itself is pretty good, and with some minor tweaks from coating, I think it could be just that much better. Moving on to the TVA guard, and I'm pretty happy with this figure. I do think the TVA logo and top accent could be a lot bigger on the upper chest plate, but I do quite love how the bottom armor pieces read as three-dimensional. It's a really convincing illusion. The orange, though, on the TVA logo and accents don't entirely match the orange on the figure itself. It's like 95% there, but that slight mismatch definitely brings down the overall impact of the figure. But I'm curious what Coating thinks.
I just wish the TVA logo was a little bigger and wasn't in the shadow of that helmet, but not sure what the fix is for that. I think you can lose the black outlines here in the side abs for a cleaner look. And overall, I feel that the oranges should be a little darker and redder to match the movie and match each other. Visually, kind of seems like the orange in the legs and arms is a little lighter, where yellower than in the upper torso.
Sounds like she agrees with me on the logo and the orange needing a little bit more work, but I do quite appreciate her comment on the black outlines for the side pieces of the armor. When they're so tucked away in the corner of the figure and so thin and so small, yeah, they really don't read all that much. I think the amount of black lines on this figure could have been minimized just that much more to allow the armor plates more room to breathe, to give more room for the details that need to be just a bit bigger. As for her note on the helmet, I might keep looking for maybe some custom helmets to allow myself the ability to do an unmasked TVA figure. Maybe that'll fix the issue with the shadow. But how about the next figure, Sabretooth? And if I'm being honest, while the torso and legs look really well together, I don't think I nailed it on the face and hair. It doesn't really look all that much like Sabretooth, at least not the version seen in the trailers of Deadpool and Wolverine. That Sabretooth looks much more feral, much more almost cat-like, savage, dirty, angry, and as nice as Radagast's head looks, and the hair also, it might be a little bit too goofy to read as Sabretooth, but that's more of a critique of my piece selection. What about the actual custom torso artwork? If I'm being hypercritical, I think everything is a little bit too small, maybe like 10%, and with not enough bold black lines to have any one element stand out. But I'm very curious to hear what Coating thinks of my custom Sabretooth.
So, while I am familiar with Sabretooth in general, his character wasn't super recognizable for me right off the bat. Something about his hair felt off to me. Like maybe he needed more foreheads? Between the hair and the eyelashes, eyebrows, it all felt a little too feminine at first. Maybe if the blonde eyebrows had some space between the eyes' lashes and the brows like arched down instead of up. Just wanted him to feel a little more angry and unhinged. The buckle details are great, and the long coat and shirt details are more recognizable here as long coat and shirt than on Cassandra's.
I think Coating's right. This figure does not feel unhinged enough to be Sabretooth. Sabretooth needs to be a character that's been already trapped in an animal state, that's then been trapped in the void according to the trailers. So yeah, maybe it needs a bit more angry eyebrows or manic face expression, and if I made a custom head, I probably could have achieved that. I think next time I'll be a bit more particular and precise with my piece selection. But how about our next figure, the Wolverine? And if I'm being honest, this one I'm not entirely happy with. The dark blue shoulder pads I don't think read as dark blue at all. In fact, I think they look black. While the muscle lines are the correct color, the overall torso I think I might have printed on the wrong piece. I printed the torso on yellow, but it looks like the legs are a darker tone of yellow. Now, if I switch them out with the legs from the CMF figure, the yellows do match, but then we have a whole swath of blue added when the majority of the suit design from the film appears to be more black than blue. Don't get me wrong, after the leg swap, the figure looks fine. It just doesn't look like Wolverine from Deadpool and Wolverine. But it's one thing to just rank on the figure. How can I improve it? What does Coating think?
Also so cute. I think you can lose the dots on the side abs and to the left-right of the buckle. I'm not sure what they're representing, but not having them could be cleaner. And I know the buckle is pretty accurate to the movie stills, but I wish the X contrast was a little better and slightly bigger. Maybe the brown fills the whole space to simplify and it's lighter? Or it's black with a yellow X. Can take a few liberties here for a better read.
Coating has a great point here, and it's a lesson I need to relearn. Screen accurate does not always equal good minifigure design. Or rather, it's not enough for a good minifigure design. Case in point, the belt buckle. While it looks exactly like the costume in the movie stills and trailers, for a figure, it needs to be a lot bigger to be more readable and legible as the X-Men belt buckle. I am glad that Coating enjoys the additional pieces I add to the character to make the whole figure read as Wolverine, but I do think my adherence to the film costume design hampered my ability to make a good minifigure torso, and I'll be sure to fix that mistakes in future iterations of this design. But that leaves us with one more character left to save this video, and that's Deadpool. I think this torso design turned out okay. What stands out immediately is the amount of white lines where the muscles are. I kind of was hoping there would be a more subtle dark red. I think that's probably a byproduct of me trying to print very thin dark red lines on a red torso. It needs some sort of white to contrast, so if I were to remake this design, I'd probably go for thicker muscle lines to have them be much more visible when printed on a red torso. But as for the black and gray and gold, I think all that looks great. The belt I am super happy with. Everything is incredibly legible and the Deadpool logo looks great even when that small. But all that positivity is coming from the designer of the figure. Of course I'm gonna be biased towards it. Let's get a professional's opinion on it, shall we?
Oh my god, I love him. His whole look is perfect. Love the little swords. I don't know if I have any notes for him right now, but I'll circle back. Okay, I still love him. But maybe the piece is just black to match the rest of the details. Or maybe you don't need it, since you've got it represented on the torso too.
That's a good question. Was the original Deadpool neck bracket in dark brown or black? I've made mistakes like this before in the past, so let's see if I have it right here. Looks like the original neck bracket was in dark brown, but the part also exists in black. And I think Coating's right. For my custom Deadpool, I might make the neck bracket black to have it match the overall figure for a much more cohesive look. But besides that and the fix from the muscle lines, I'm really happy with this Deadpool, and I hope I did Deadpool proud. So there you have it, 5 custom minifigures from Deadpool and Wolverine. Now, as of recording, the film has not come out yet, and I'm sure once it does, we'll get a whole slew of cameos and new figures to create, so be sure to leave a comment in the comment section down below of who you think I should design next. And if you're already scrolling down, check out the link in the description box to access all of my custom minifigure designs, all of my art files, all of my PNGs for any figure or part I've made in a previous video. Just enter the password heyhey. All lowercase, no spaces. Big thanks to Coating for taking the time to critique my designs, and another big thanks to Tex Kelly on Cameo for his incredible video message as Deadpool. And as always, if you like this video, be sure to subscribe to the channel, and thanks for watching.